instructions for enrollment of off-campus students. So if anybody doesn't have that one, wave your hand at me. All right, everybody's good. All right. I believe the next one says important info for 2021 seniors and high school students. Did everybody get that one? All good? Okay. The next one is a two-sided form that has a chart on one side. It says graduation checklist. And on the back of it, it says high school graduation requirements. This is an important one. Okay, everybody got that one? I'm sorry. There are extras on the back table right there. Okay, the fourth one is, I believe, a blank report card, a report card form. And we'll talk about that. And we're not giving you this because we necessarily want you to use a paper one, but we wanted you to be able to look at it during the meeting. Okay, everybody get a report card? All right, and then the fifth one is about college applications. College application and scholarships. Okay. Okay, for those of you who are watching us online, of course you don't have these handouts, but you can email us and we can email the pages to you. And a lot of these will be put on our website also. So you will have access to all these same forms. All right, well, we want to welcome everybody. I'm Pat Wade, and a lot of you are new and we've not gotten to meet face-to-face until today. And quite a few of you are, I won't say old, but returning parents. And so we welcome all of you here. And before we go any farther, we're going to start with a word of prayer. Dear Father, we thank you so much for the privilege we have to be here today. And we know that we meet during difficult circumstances, and we just thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this church and their willingness to open up their facilities and allow us to gather, even though carefully. And we just praise your name for giving us the opportunity to work with our own children and to provide them with the best education and the best spiritual nourishment we possibly can. We ask this all in Jesus' name, amen. Okay, just out of curiosity, how many are new to homeschooling? All right, we've got several. Okay, how many of you are new to Faith Heritage this year? All right, a lot, of course, a lot of the same ones. Okay, just out of curiosity, so we've got both. Our other meetings, our evening meetings, we're trying to gear toward just our new families, just for the sake of working out the space and everything. Okay, well, for those of you who are new, I'm going to try to give you just a really brief synopsis of what this program is all about and some of the expectations and so forth. As you probably know, Faith Heritage Christian Academy is a small private church-related school in Millington, Tennessee. And as accorded by the laws of the state of Tennessee, we operate what some people call an umbrella program or a satellite program, whatever, a cover school. It has a lot of names. But anyway, the purpose of it is to fulfill the requirements of the state of Tennessee that you are under the supervision of a school. We do not provide curriculum or anything like that. So if you think you're in a program where you're going to get school materials from us, then you are mistaken. You have to buy your own materials. We provide the link to a school. We keep the records for you. We get the records from their previous school, and we maintain that for you. You send the grade reports to us on a quarterly basis, and we keep those together. And then if in the future you transfer your students to another school or to a traditional school, then we will send those for you to give the evidence that they have had school during the time that you were with us. So anyway, that's the purpose. In fact, I'd like to call your attention to the, in my lineup, this was the first one, the instructions for enrollment of off-campus students. The first paragraph, you don't need to take the time to read it right now, but I would strongly encourage you to read this paragraph carefully when you have an opportunity, because it defines our program and it lets you know what you're in, that's not a good way to say it, but what your affiliation is, and what your standing is in the state of Tennessee. So it's very important that you understand this, especially if you do transfer in the future. It's just very important that you understand the way to explain that and the correct terminology and so forth. The rest of it is just, things you can look at your leisure, general things about our program. But anyway, I do want you to be sure, if you can make yourself a note, to go back and read that paragraph that's called the definition. Specifically the part that says that our program is technically, according to the way the Tennessee statutes are set up, it's technically not a homeschool program, but a satellite program. And your students are considered students of our school, private school students. And so that can be very important to grab a hold of if you do transfer in the future, or there could be other situations where that's important for you. Okay. As I mentioned a minute ago, our main contact with you, as you've probably gathered, is going to be through email. We do have a phone set up that you can call, but the email is by far the best, because we can just keep up with your questions and answer and have tracking of that and so forth in a much better way. My husband, Terry Wade, is the director of the off-campus program, but he is also in leadership at the actual school, the K through 12 day school that meets in Millington. So during the school day, he is not going to be quite as available to take phone calls as he has been in the past because of those responsibilities. So you're certainly welcome to leave a message, text, or call, but if you want to get me, you need to email, because I don't carry that phone. Sir, there's some handouts in the back if you want to grab them before you sit down. Oh, okay. Anyway, all right, so let's move to the report card, because that's going to apply to everyone regardless of age. Now, the report card that we have handed out to you is designed specifically for high school. We have another one that if you have younger students, you can grab as you're leaving on the table in the lobby, that has the subjects filled in for the K through 8th grade. So it helps you to make sure you don't miss any subjects and so forth. We don't write those in for high school because the names of the subjects change and vary during high school. And if you want to have maybe beside you, you can look at both at the same time, the chart that has all the high school classes, and then if you'll turn that over, it's got a list of the same courses. Okay, this is very important to remember for high school. When you fill in your report card, you should be writing down the name of one of these courses. Now, we've got English started for you and Bible, which is required every year throughout school. But we don't have math and science and social studies and things like that listed, because when your student gets to high school, you need to give the name of a specific course. In other words, they don't just take math, they take Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 or geometry or pre-calculus or trigonometry or any number of different possible courses that they may take during high school. So for your student to get the right credit that he needs or she needs toward graduation, then you need to make sure you tell us on the report card. And we know that you normally fill out a curriculum form at the first of the school year. And if by chance you've not done that yet, we do have some blank ones for you out in the lobby if you were not able to get the online one to work. But anyway, so you need to make sure you specify which course. Same for science, physical science, biology, chemistry, anatomy, whichever science they're taking, it needs to say it on the report card. Social studies, you should have world history and geography, U.S. history and geography, economics, government, and any number of electives that could be in there. So anyway, it's just important for a foreign language, make sure you put what level. In other words, if they take Spanish 1 and then take Spanish 2, then be sure and put the numbers on there so that we'll know which one they're getting credit for. So just be as specific as possible. You do not need to write the curriculum on the report card, just the names of the courses, because we have your curriculum list. If you change curriculum, if you decide, oh, this is not working and I'm going to do something different, then just send us an email and let us know. You don't have to fill out a new form unless you're changing everything. But if you're just changing a subject or two, it's fine to just send an email and let us know that as simply as possible. The report cards should be submitted every quarter. And let me also emphasize, PE is required every year through 8th grade. I believe the state requires a minimum of 90 minutes a week of some kind of physical activity. It doesn't matter what it is, they've just got to have the bodies moving, at least 90 minutes. And once the students reach high school, they need to earn a full credit in PE. That's in addition to health, a full credit of PE. Most students spread that over 2 years, and for a half credit over a year's time, that would mean 75 hours. So a total of 150 hours of PE during high school, and then they're done. Although the hope is that they will continue in some kind of activity throughout life. Okay, report cards are due quarterly. A quarter is 9 weeks or 45 days. We have the days started for you on the form just to try to remind you. And so here are the due dates that we recommend for report cards. First quarter is due by October 31st. Yeah, you may want to jot this down because I'm not sure it's there. October 31st is, you can do it sooner, but your goal is to have a report by then. The second quarter is due by January 15th. That gives you plenty of time to get through Christmas. If you finish before your break for the holidays, then it would be a good idea to go ahead and send your report card and not have to think about it later. But you have till January 15th for second quarter. Third quarter is due April 1st. And then the fourth quarter and final report card is due June the 15th. Now, we've tried to spread these out enough that you have plenty of leeway for your schedule. But if you do get in a bind and find that you're not getting finished, just let us know, what's going on. And the key is to communicate with us, because once you get started, unless you've got questions along the way, the only communication that's going between you and us as your school, are the grade reports. So the grade reports are what show us that you are making progress, that your student is doing their schoolwork. That's where the accountability is built in, is through that report card. So it may seem like a very simple piece of paper, but it is very important. And then in the end, we want a report card that's got everything on it. We don't want one that's got only the first quarter and then the next one only the second and so forth. We want them to build so that each quarter you're adding, and that at the end of the school year you've got a report card with everything. Be sure and keep that for yourself. What we recommend is that we will send everyone a blank report card through email, and so the preference is that you take that and copy it to your computer and then type it in and fill it in and email that to us. But that doesn't always work for everybody. So if you need the paper form, now that you have one, you can fill it in. You can just write the things in if you need to do that. And you can scan and email it. You can fax it, or you can send it through regular mail, just whatever works for you. Some people just take a picture of it and send it. That's really okay if it comes through clearly. Sometimes pictures can be hard to print and get them to come out clearly. If you do use a picture to send it, make sure you send it with whatever is the largest choice of size, because sometimes when we print them, they're so, shrunk down that we can't even read them. So that's not really helping. So try to make sure that, that you get a good copy there. But anyway, whatever works to get that to us, then that's what we want you to do. Yes? Great question. Thank you. Okay. For grades K through pretty much 7th grades, it is fine to use letter grades. A, B, C, D, the grading scale is on the report card. Once the students start earning high school credits, and that's why I say 8th grade, because a lot of times students will start earning high school credits in the 8th grade, then we want and require you to use number grades, the 0 through 100 scale. So just whatever grades they've earned, then that's what you'll put on there. We don't want you to try to weight the grades, because we'll talk about that in a little bit, but whatever grade that you are assigning them for the course is what we want you to give to your students. So anyway, yes, number grades for high school. They just average much better and have a much more professional look, in my opinion. But anyway, let's talk for a minute about extra credit and honors and grading and so forth, especially for those of you who are new, but even returning parents may have this information that they need to absorb. In home education, regardless of where your students are taking classes, regardless of whether they're meeting with tutors or in a tutorial class or an online class or a dual enrollment college class, well, actually, the dual enrollment is an exception, so to take that back out of this. But anyway, wherever your students are taking classes other than college, then just understand that you have taken on the primary responsibility as their teacher. You may see yourself more as an administrator, that I'm setting them up to be in all these different classes and so forth, and maybe you're not actually teaching them anything. You may have subbed out all the actual teaching, but you're still the one that's responsible. When you home educate, it means that you as the parent are the one that's responsible. You've taken on that responsibility. You have said, I'm not turning my children over to the state for a public education. I'm not turning them over to a private school. I have chosen home education, and it doesn't necessarily mean they are learning all their subjects at home. It means the home is their home base, and that you as the parents are in charge. So it's a big responsibility, and I think you've realized that as you've stepped into this, but it also gives you, with that responsibility, some certain privileges too. One is in the grading process. The grades that you turn into us are ultimately your decision. You are the ones who are choosing the grade. And I say that with a little bit of trepidation, because I know if your students are taking a class somewhere and that teacher assigns them a grade, then they expect that that's their grade. But there's a lot of different factors that come into that. One is the tutorial may have a different grading scale than we use. So then you have a situation where you're going to have to adapt if you choose to adapt. The other situation is you may choose to give your student extra credit work. You may know that they're doing things on this subject in addition to what they're doing for this particular teacher. So you get to factor that in. you may look at their grade and say they need extra credit, so you choose to give them an extra assignment. I just want you to know, as the parent in charge, that you have the right to do that. That is your privilege, because it's ultimately your decision how your students are graded. And I like to give this example. If, for instance, when you're approaching the end of a school year and you see that the average for all the grades are going to end up being a 92 for the year. Well, 92 is a great grade. There's nothing wrong with a 92. But if you look at the grading scale, you'll see that one more point gets them a 93, which is an A. And like I said, there's not a huge difference between a 92 and a 93. But when you're figuring a grade point average, there is a big difference between an A and a B. Because in a grading scale setup, if you haven't done this before, an A equals 4 points, a B equals 3 points, a C equals 2 points, and a D equals 1 point. So when those get added up, however many points each, for instance, if your student takes 6 courses for the year, and say, for instance, they earn 3 A's and 3 B's. Well, each A is worth 4 points, so that would be 3 times 4. You get 12 total points for the 3 A's, and then if they have 3 B's, they're worth 3 points each, so 3 times 3, you get 9. And then you add that together. Figuring a grade point average is really very simplistic. It's easy math. But anyway, you take that 12 and that 9 and add it together, you get a 21. And take my word, I figured this in the past, but anyway, and then you take that 21 and divide it by 6, which is the total number of credits for that year. And that, if I've done my math correctly, should come out to a 3.5, because it's exactly halfway between A and B, or between the 4 point and the 3 point. That's just a simple example, but that's how a grade point average works. You figure how many points for all the A's, how many points for all the B's, how many for all the C's, and so forth, and multiply those out, add them up, and then divide by the total number of credits. If there are half credits, then you just do it in half. In other words, a half credit course that made an A would get 2 points, not 4, because you have to allow for the half amount of credit. So anyway, and that's how you come up with a basic unweighted grade point average. And don't let me forget, I'm going to come back and tell you how to work with a weighted one. But I want to talk for a moment about how you get extra credit, so you'll understand where this comes in. We started several years ago encouraging our parents to let us know if they felt like the courses their students were taking are honors level, because we realize the more we work with students as they prepare and go into college, that our students are competing against students from all the other schools who have the opportunity to take honors courses. And so, of course, that means they get weighted grade point averages and get a leg up, I guess you could say, for the competition for college admission and for scholarships. And in my thinking, I thought, well, I know that our students are doing, for the most part, upper level work. Their labs and their science classes are more advanced. I had a teacher who was knowledgeable about these things give me an outline of pretty much what you look for in an honors level class. And so the explanation I will give you is that if you know that a course is above average, and if you're not sure, you can do things to make it be above average. You can add a paper. Adding a, say, like a 5-page paper to the course, and that means for the whole year. It doesn't have to be something overwhelming. It depends on their grade level. You're not going to expect the same from a 9th grader as you would from a 12th grader. So age appropriate and so forth. But you can give extra work to make any course be an honors level in general. There's some curriculum companies that we believe tend to always be advanced, and so we recognize those as honors level. But that is with the understanding that those courses and that curriculum is being followed and used thoroughly, not hit or miss. So if you say I'm doing this course with ABECA, for instance, which is known to be an advanced program, then we are going to assume, unless you tell us differently, that you're following that, you know, the way it's recommended to be followed and so forth. So that means you need to let us know if a course is honors level. It would be good to put it on the curriculum plan sheet, and also especially be sure and put it on the report card. Now, I will give the students the benefit of the doubt, because I'm always looking for a way to give them the best opportunity that's possible by putting their high school experience on paper. So I will look through their curriculum plan sheets and see what tutors they had, what curriculum you were using, and so forth. But it's always better if you let me know, so that I will know that for sure, or that I won't miss out on something. The advantage of having a course marked honors is at least twofold. One is, on their transcript, of course, it looks better to say they're taking honors level as opposed to just a regular course. The other thing is that, as I mentioned, you can get extra credit on their grade point average. So let's look back at where we were talking about how to figure a grade point average. If the student takes an honors level course, then we do not, it's my understanding that the Shelby County schools put extra points right on the grade. In other words, if they take a course and make a 90, then if it's honors, they get a 93 for the course. We don't do that because we encourage you to give us whatever grade they've earned or what grade you're assigning to them. And we state on the transcript the grades are not weighted, they're you know, the earned grades. But where we put in the extra credit is in what we call a weighted grade point average. They've got the regular grade point average we call unweighted that we talked about in a minute ago. The weighted one has the extra credit. The honors courses each have an extra 1/2 point. That doesn't mean on their grade, it means on their I think it's called a quality point. For instance, if they earn an A for the course, that A is worth 4 points. In an honors course, it's worth 4.5 points. So it adds up to quite a bit of extra credit when you're figuring the grade point average. If they take several honors courses each year, then by the time they finish high school, then they can have, they could have as many as 15 extra points added on to that, you know, before you start figuring. In other words, their grade point average, our highest ones are normally in the neighborhood, the really high ones, of about 4.5. So, and I'm talking about an overall grade point average, not just for a course, but a graduating grade point average. So it's a great way to do several things of benefit: to give your student the best possible education, and to show it on paper that they're getting a high quality education, and to help their grade point average to be as high as possible. If they take dual enrollment courses, which are college courses, we give an extra point, a whole point. Now, when your student is going to college, and we'll talk about that in a minute for dual enrollment, the course needs to be reported to us just like it came from the college. It doesn't need, the grades don't need to be changed or doctored or anything. It should be a letter grade. Colleges give letter grades, and so you give us that letter grade. That's what we put on their transcript, and it goes like it is. But in the weighted grade point average, we give an extra whole point. So if they earn an A for the course, then in their weighted grade point average, instead of just the 4 points, they'll get 5. So that will boost their grade point average even better. We also do an extra whole point if they take any AP courses, and those are very specialized courses, and if you have questions about that, you can let us know. But you cannot call a course AP unless you have an authorized course that is approved by the College Board, who owns that name. It's a copyrighted name for AP or advanced placement courses. So you will need to enroll them in a place that has been pre-approved to give AP courses, to label a course by that name. So if you have questions on that, you can ask and let us know. There are several places around the country that do offer online AP courses. So if you have a very advanced student and you want those, then you can look. There's a group called the Pennsylvania Homeschoolers, and they offer AP courses, quite a lot of different choices. The HSLDA Online Academy offers AP courses. That's HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association. They have begun an online academy that offers AP, and there's others, so you can just do a Google search and find those. And as I'm sure you're discovering, there is more and more available online. I mean, you literally have the world at your fingertips in the educational world because of what's available to you and to your students right now. So, any questions about anything we've talked about so far? Yes. Okay. What her question is a dual enrollment course a full credit or a half credit, because the course only lasts for one semester. It's up to the school, I suppose, but we give a full credit. A college course, a 3-hour or 4-hour college course, is worth one high school credit with us. So it's also a great way to get credits earned in half as much time. And it doesn't mean, I'm very well aware of the fact that some of the community college courses may not be any higher quality than what your student is getting in a tutorial or from you or any other situation. That's really going to depend on what teacher they get and which school they go to as far as the quality. But still, a college credit is a college credit. It counts if they go out here to Southwest Community College and earn the credits for several courses. They will transfer virtually anywhere, maybe not to the top Ivy League schools or anything like that, but the University of Memphis will take them, Union University will take them, University of Tennessee will take them. So, they've got the courses under their belt in what they have earned. And so we give the credit, and we don't differentiate between how much credit they get depending on where they took the course. Yes, Linda? I do. I do. But you can go back and check me, too. And let me say something. Okay, any other questions about, yes? Great question. Okay, her question was, if you have not turned in things as honors in the past, but you believe they were honors, can you go back and correct those? Yes, you certainly can. And like I said, if I have your curriculum pages, I have that. Sometimes you'll get through a year and I discover, they never turned in their curriculum page, so then I don't know what you used. But yes, you can go back and resubmit those report cards and send them to me to make sure that your student is getting the honors credits up until, it really needs to be done at least by the beginning of the senior year, because then their transcripts start going out to colleges, and you don't want to start doctoring the transcripts once you start sending them out. I mean, you can if you need to change something, but it's better if you have it done ahead of time. Did you have a question? Okay. I thought I saw. Oh, sorry. Okay, yes, and let me come back to dual enrollment, because there's a lot of details on that. So we'll give some attention just to that. Okay, any other questions about honors courses or putting your stuff on the report card or anything like that? Okay, yes. Yeah. She's saying, can she get a list of the companies that we consider honors levels? So yes, you can email us, and we'll be glad to. And I mean, there's so much curriculum out there now. There's no way that we know the quality of all of it. So we may have to depend on you. If you say something's honors, we may have to say, okay, tell us why you believe it's honors level. if we're not familiar with it. Okay, let me go back to my outline here so I'm not going to forget something important here. One question I do need to ask that's going to be important toward how we direct this. How many of you have seniors? Oh, we've got lots of seniors. Okay, great. All right, so we'll make sure that we give the seniors lots of attention. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I know that we throw out the term transcript a lot, and I know before I got into homeschooling, I wouldn't have had a clue of what a transcript was. I mean, I knew generally what it was, but not specifically. But anyway, a transcript is basically a sheet of paper that has on it everything, every course your student took during high school. They don't go back and pick up elementary and middle school unless the middle school was a high school level course. But the high school course has got their identifying info at the top, name, address, a birth date. I put the social security number on there if you give it to me, only because when you're dealing with big colleges, you just want to make sure that they're matching your student's transcript with the correct application. And I know places are getting away from that, so if they give you an ID number that you'd rather use instead, that's fine. The ACTs are not putting social security numbers on there anymore, so I'm not sure how they keep all that straight, but evidently they're able to do it through the name and address and birth date, so they should be able to do that with the transcript too. But the big colleges are bad about losing track of things like that. But anyway, it's a sheet of paper. It's got the identifying info at the top. It's got the grading scale, and then it's just a list. Each course they took, like it'll say 9th grade and list all their courses, and if it's honors, it'll say that. And I put it in bold, primarily because that helps me. And then a column with the grades they earned for each course, and then the amount of credit. Most courses are 1 credit, but there's a few that are half credits, and that's spelled out on the sheets we gave you. Anyway, and then at the end of it, we have a statement that tells about the weighting, that the grades on there are not weighted, but that the grade point average is weighted, and it tells how that's done. It's also got a statement about dual enrollment. If your student took courses at a college, it will spell out where they took that course. And other special things, that's generally, but sometimes if they got AP credit for an AP exam, that will be on there and so forth. And then at the bottom, it tells for seniors, it's going to tell their graduation date. It's going to tell, and like up until graduation, it's going to say diploma to be awarded. For the seniors this year, it is May 14th, 2021. With great hope, with great hope. This year it got spread all over the place. But anyway, that's the set graduation date. That will be the date on your student's diploma, regardless of when it gets handed to them. But we hope everything is opened back up and we can have a normal, real, regular graduation. So it's going to have the graduation date. These are all things that colleges require. It's going to have the cumulative number of credits they've earned, high school credits, and then it's going to have the grade point average, both unweighted and then the weighted grade point average. So that's what's going to be on there, and then it will have a signature. It will say William Terry Wade, Associate Headmaster, and he signs it. That makes it official. And if it goes out in paper form, it will have a school seal on it, one of those seals that you press into it with a little handheld machine. Lots and lots of the colleges are accepting the transcripts through email now, so you don't have to worry about a seal because that won't show up on an email, and that is great. We've actually had to mail very few transcripts this year because we've been able to email so many, and the college counselors like it too because they're not having to wait for it to come through their college's mail room that can get bogged up for weeks and weeks. They can get it instantly and let you know immediately they've got it and your student is cleared for, whether it's for dual enrollment or for full-time college admission. So, any questions on anything so far? Okay. Then let's talk about dual enrollment, because I know you have lots of questions on that. I have a page that's just on dual enrollment. I don't know if I've got a copy of it up here. Dual enrollment, as you probably know, is simply the process of taking college classes while you're in high school. And it's open to juniors and seniors for sure, and sometimes even younger students can take dual enrollment. It's something that you need to plan for in advance. One advantage for this particular year is that the colleges are not requiring an ACT score to get into dual enrollment. So if you've been thinking, oh, I can't do dual enrollment because my student didn't get to take their ACT, that is being waived at every college that I'm aware of. So they're just going by the student's grade point average, and sometimes they require a recommendation letter from us. But usually that's in cases where they require it anyway. Do you mind handing me that stack of papers that nobody got? Okay, I just want to make sure I don't miss something important on this topic. You know what? Did y'all get a page on dual enrollment? They're all still out in the lobby. All right. You want to get one? Yeah, a couple of y'all want to get those. They should be on that table. Yeah, y'all want this for the dual enrollment. It gives the some general information, then it also lists the contact information for some of the most common colleges used in this area. Most of our students go to the community colleges, meaning Southwest Tennessee Community College, or for our students that live up in the Millington area and Tipton County, then most of them attend the Dyersburg State Community College because they have a campus in Covington. So whichever one is more convenient. Southwest has several campuses. We also have quite a lot of students who attend the University of Memphis. Yeah, wave your hand at Tanya or somebody if you don't have this. Oh, okay, it was on the back of some of them. That's how I missed it. Okay. To do dual enrollment, most colleges have a somewhat separate admissions. Yes. Oh, you're doing it for her. Okay. Sometimes you go through the regular admissions. Yes. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I'll quit responding till y'all get settled. The best thing to do if you're approaching dual enrollment is to go to the college's website and just see what instructions they have. Occasionally they'll use a different name for it, but pretty much dual enrollment is the common term being used now by all the colleges. So if you don't find it quickly, like going to their admissions or something like that, then I would just do a search. Most college websites have a search feature, and that might be quicker than trying to hunt through everything. But anyway, it will tell you how to apply. A lot of times you just use their regular college admission, but click on something that will let them know that it's for a dual enrollment application or that the student is still in high school. We've had it kind of tricky with the University of Memphis because we have students applying right now to go there a year from now to start their college next fall, and they're also applying for dual enrollment, and so some of those applications are getting confused, we've noticed. But we have great working relationships with the colleges in this area, with Southwest, with University of Memphis, with UT Martin, with Christian Brothers, Union University. Since most of the classes are online right now, then any college across the state is open to you, really in the world. But the advantage of choosing a college within the state of Tennessee is that you get to use the dual enrollment grant The state of Tennessee will provide money for your student to take college classes while they're in high school. They will give you $500 for each of the first 2 classes. They will give you $200 for the 3rd class. The 4th class, they don't give you money for. And then after that point, you can take up to several more. I think you can take up to 3 at a time if you want to and get money. But the money past that original $1,200, the $500 and $500 and $200, will come out of your student's Hope Scholarship. So just be aware of that. Now if you know they've got their heart set on going to a college out of state, then that's a great way to get to use some of the Tennessee money right now. But anyway, just, it's good to be aware of what you're doing there if you feel like they need it more now. That's per semester. Per semester. Right.
So technically, do I have to register him in the spring for him to get a full credit for his English and math, because he's taking college English and college algebra?
Each semester course is a full high school credit.
So technically, I wouldn't have to register him in the spring. He'd still get his full year credit.
Right. Right. But, if but he's going to need that second semester once he gets to college, so. Another thing that a lot of the colleges don't tell you that's good to be aware of is that if your student has a really high ACT score in English, they may let you skip the first semester of English. And I have noticed that they don't tell parents that. So that is important to know. Now, if you're not going to stay, say for instance at the University of Memphis, I believe they have that rule, but if your student's not going to stay there for their regular college, then they're going to need that. Possibly. It just depends. If Memphis lets them skip it and go ahead and take English 2, the second semester, then I wouldn't think another college would make them come back and take the first, but I would check it out to make sure. Yes? Dual enrollment is available for younger students, not just 11th and 12th graders, depending on the college. But the grant money is only available for 11th and 12th graders. So you can pay for it yourself and take courses at some. Some schools will let you and some won't. I know Southwest will let students that are younger, at least they have in the past, because they would go by their ACT scores to see if they felt like they were ready. So that would be a question to check on that. On this dual enrollment page, it gives you the link to be able to sign up for the grant. It's not too late. It's almost too late, but it's not too late to sign up for classes for this fall. You may not get very good selections because people have already chosen the classes. One thing I have discovered in dealing with the Southwest courses is that the information on their website is a bit misleading, because when you look at a course and it says this course will take 20 students, and then they come back and say, no, it's full. Well, I think the reason for that is because they're doing what they call hybrid courses, which I think means part online and part either in person or part through Zoom, something like Zoom, not Zoom, but something like Zoom. And I think they're limiting those to 12 students, but that's not reflected. I don't know if some of y'all, I don't know if Jamie ran into that, because I've had parents say it showed plenty of openings, and yet the dual enrollment person is saying it's full. So I think that's the reason, is that they've not reset their website to reflect all the changes. But anyway, to get the grant, you make an account with the state, and it's got the website on there, and then you sign up for the grant. Now, you have to specify which college you want it to go to, and if you happen to change colleges, then you've got to go through a process to change where your grant goes. So be aware of that. It's not something this college will do for you. Another thing that's important to remember, And this is for those of you who have already signed up for dual enrollment courses at any particular college. If you have signed your student up for a college course and they're considered enrolled in a course, if you've gotten information saying, yes, they're enrolled in such and such course, or I don't know the process of all of them, but I think most of them you sign up and then the college does the actual putting you into the course. Just be aware that that is official. And unless you go through the steps to unenroll, then your student is considered enrolled in that course, meaning you owe for the course, it'll use your money, whether you go to the course or not. And if you sign up and are enrolled in a course and you don't do it, if your student doesn't follow through and do the work for the course and so forth, then that will be reflected on a transcript in their permanent college record that they failed a course. So just be aware that it's not the same as high school where you can say, oh, I decided not to do that. Well, you can change your mind, but you've got to go through the steps to change your mind. So I just have this fear, and I know it has happened to other students in the past, where they're like, oh, I didn't realize. There's a lot of things you say, I didn't realize. But the most important thing to realize when you're dealing with dual enrollment is that your student is enrolling in college. Even though they're in high school, they're enrolling in regular college classes. These are not classes designed just for high school students. It's your student choosing to take a college level course that's with other college students. And whatever they do with that course, whatever they earn, that is on their permanent college record. It goes with them forever. If they bomb a class, if they do badly, they can retake the class. There is a way to redeem a bad situation. You can drop a class. If you get partway through, every school will give you a drop date. If you get, even halfway through and look at it and say, oh, they're not going to make it, this is not going well, you do have that choice. You may not get your money back, but you at least won't end up with a failing grade if you drop the class. So you do have options, but you just need to be aware of how serious it is when you choose to do dual enrollment and jump into college work. That it is very important that you see that as very serious. Okay, any questions on dual enrollment? I haven't gone through a lot of specifics here, but I've listed the contact info. Right. Yeah, if you sign up for dual enrollment, you're working with the college and whatever their guidelines are and so forth. Another thing that's good to know is that it has its good and bad sides, but the dual enrollment courses your student takes and whatever grades they earn for them do not count toward their Hope Scholarship GPA. And what that means is this: it doesn't have anything to do with them earning the Hope Scholarship. It has to do with them keeping the Hope Scholarship once they get it. Once a student gets into college, which almost the great majority of our students do earn the Hope Scholarship, but they have to keep up a certain grade point average while they're in college to keep it. And the courses they do on dual enrollment do not count toward that. They start fresh once they start college full time. So that's important to keep in mind too. Okay. Well, like I said, you may have time if you've wanted to do dual enrollment and didn't get into it yet. You do have some time. One of the things that's nice to know, just one second, is that your students, for the most part, are getting very, very big discounts on the courses. Now, I think at the community colleges, the courses are pretty much the standard price because they're greatly discounted anyway, and most of them are about $500 a course. But at the University of Memphis, at UT Martin, especially private colleges like Christian Brothers Union, Bryan College, which is in East Tennessee, and many, many others, they are discounting those courses for dual enrollment students down to that $500 price per course. and that's a huge savings over their normal tuition. So you have a great opportunity to get courses at some very high-level schools at a fraction of the cost. Another thing to keep in mind is that of the ones I'm aware of, both UT Martin and the University of Tennessee, if you get involved in their dual enrollment program, they will scholarship the courses after you use up the grant money. And I don't have the exact details on that, but I know some of it means you've got to stay in their program. In other words, you can't take a couple at one college and a couple at another college and expect them to write off the cost of it. But if you go to the University of Memphis, or if you go to UT Martin, and of course they're all going to be online, and sign up for those first courses that are covered by the grant, then they will scholarship, meaning write off the cost of those courses that come afterwards that are not covered by the grant. So you've got a great deal there going. And in a lot of cases, you're actually saving money over what it would cost you at the community college. So I'm not sure that our parents are aware of that, of those opportunities. Okay. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, her question was if the college has a different grading scale than we do, what do you go by? And in the case of the college, we have to report the exact grade you earned. So if they, for instance, if they got a 90 for the course, well, actually, since they're going to be the letter grade, they're fine because we want the letter grade. The letter grade is what we want for I have parents over and over say, I tried to figure out how to get that into a number. We don't want the number for a dual enrollment course. We want the exact letter the college gave you, and we really want a copy of your grade report from the college, just, to have that verification in their file. It doesn't have to be a certified transcript. We really don't need that. Just a copy of the grade report that you can get online. I'm sure most of you are aware that the colleges don't mail out grades anymore, or probably anybody. But anyway, your student's going to have an account in a portal with the college, and that's where they'll get their grades. They'll be posted. And so anyway, just send us a copy, copy and paste that particular page and email that to us. And that's all we need to verify the college courses. Some of the colleges actually send us the grades, which is great, because then we got a chart where everybody's is right there, but we don't always get that. But anyway, yes? To take a dual enrollment class, yes. Yes, you do enroll in the college, but you're not enrolling as a regular full-time student. You need to go through the process of enrolling as a dual enrollment student, but you are enrolling in the college. It's up to the college. Every college is different on what they're going to require. So, there's not one answer for that goes across the board, but you just follow. Penny? If you want her to take it, yeah. Actually, you would sign up for it before she finishes. If you want to take classes for the spring, then you want to get good choices, you want to start, say, probably 1st of November to get in a class that's going to start in January. Because a lot of y'all have discovered the courses you wanted were full because the people who knew what they wanted signed up for them back in March and April. And so by the summer, all the... Yeah, you just, I know for Southwest, for instance, to re-enroll, all you need is that one page that we sign. It's called the student data form. They don't need any of the other stuff, just that one sheet of paper to get enrolled in that. Okay, well, if you have more questions on dual enrollment, then shoot me an email and we'll try to make that as clear as possible. And like I said, I've tried to give you the contact info for lots of the different schools around the state, and we've had great experiences really with all of them. So it's just up to, who has what you want and what transfers. If you're trying to decide what's a good course to take, a really good idea is to go to the website of the college your student really wants to go to ultimately, where they want to go to full-time college. Pull up what they're called general education, gen ed requirements, and see what they can take that will fulfill those requirements. If you don't know, a good place to start is at the University of Memphis. I mean, literally at least half of our students, maybe close to half of our students after they graduate go there, and a whole lot go to Southwest. So if you don't know, go to their website, look up what their general education requirements are, and it's going to spell it all out for you. And get familiar with that. When my children were college age, I studied over those pages so that I about had them memorized, because you want to know, if they're going to go take some dual enrollment classes, you definitely want them to count toward what they're going to need. So that's a good way to do your research and check out your colleges. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. All right. I think we've spent enough time on that. And please, please don't hesitate to remind me if I say I'm going to come back to something and then I haven't done it. Okay, something simple that you probably all know, but we'll be sure and mention. When your students, those of you who have 9th and 10th graders, we test our students every year up through the 10th grade. Achievement testing in the spring is part of the requirements of our program, and we offer at least 3 different locations and so forth. This year the testing got interrupted, so we only got to have 1 session, and then those who chose to did make-up sessions during the summer. But anyway, that was the way that the younger kids' testing went. For juniors and seniors, they need to take the ACT or SAT or something that would be a comparable college entrance exam, both during 11th and 12th grades. Now, if they get a great score in the 11th grade, they don't necessarily have to take it again as a senior. Most students will, just because, they're always going to want to see if they can get it even better. Scholarships are definitely driven by these test scores, so you want to get the best opportunity for your students as possible. A lot of people use tutors and classes and things like that, and a lot of times that can help a lot. So it's up to your student and what they need and what they're aiming for on these different test scores. But not to discourage you, some people assume if their student gets, say for instance, a 30 on the ACT, which is a great score, they assume that means they're going to get a full ride to college. That's not the case anymore. The scores have all gone up, and I've had students that had 33s and still were not getting full scholarships. Now, they could have gotten full scholarships at certain schools. They just weren't getting them at the schools they were choosing. So anyway, it's a kind of a racket, and we understand that, but it is sort of the one standard measuring stick around our country that the colleges depend on to evaluate students. Although that is changing, amazingly, we got an email this year from Rhodes College that they were no longer requiring an ACT or SAT score. I was shocked. But anyway, now I don't know if they literally mean not at all, but that's what the email said. So the schools are moving away. I know for this year, for students who are entering college right now, it's being waived, but almost all of our students had already taken the ACT way before the virus hit. So they already had it. Of course, it took away their opportunity to retake it in the spring and try to get that score up, but that's the way it went. Yes? From high school? We're gonna say yes, they need it to graduate from high school, but if for some reason things don't open up, then of course we can't require it if they can't take it. So we'll this is the kind of year where we have to see how it's going to go. That's all we can say. We can tell you what our normal requirements are, and then we'll see. Yes, ma'am. correct. No, no. Yeah, the kids who were not able to take it during their junior year, you know, you can't do anything about that. Now, if you have juniors right now, they can still take it this coming summer, and it still counts toward their junior year. So just keep that in mind. You can go all the way through till the end of the junior year and have that opportunity. One of the reasons the state started requiring juniors to take it is because they use it to determine what kind of math they have to take as seniors. And we actually haven't even hit high school subjects. Anyway, our time is running out, and we need to cover a lot of different material. But anyway, just take the guidelines we're giving you and apply them as you're able to. We do offer special ACT testing at our school campus, which means testing with accommodations for students who have documented learning difficulties. So if your student has either an IEP, a 504 plan, or just a written evaluation from a professional that documents that they have ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, or anything that's of a learning disability in reading and math and writing, those kind of things, or if they have a physical difficulty that will make it difficult for them to go through regular testing. They've approved it for students that have diabetes, and so they can't sit through a regular testing session because of their need to have the care that they need, have water and snacks and things like that. So ACT, and I keep saying ACT, SAT does the same thing. It's just 99% of our students do the ACT, so we're just so much more familiar in working with them. But anyway, they have a process on their website that you go through when you apply, that you can tell them, my student has a learning difficulty, they get testing accommodations, and you might think, well, do they get testing accommodations? Well, if you give them extra time while they're taking their test at home, pretty much it's almost a given in a homeschool setting that your student has accommodations in a way, because generally speaking, they're quiet, one-on-one, possibly, depending on the household. Alicia doesn't have quiet one-on-one, but anyway, it just depends on your setup. But we're talking about in a formal sense, but you would mark, yes, they get accommodations during the testing. If they have tested with us, or you will, then we certainly do give accommodations for students that ask for it. And a lot of times people come in the summer and get one-on-one testing because of that. Anyway, the reason I brought that up is because the ACT has been allowing that type of testing to continue. We were able to give the ACT at our school campus during the summer while other people were not able to do it, because we were doing 1 or 2 students at a time, and it's a different situation, so they let that continue. We actually tested 1 student from ECS and 1 student from Briarcrest because their schools were not offering it, and so they went through the steps to get ACT to approve them to come take it at our campus. Little old Faith Heritage out in Millington, but it worked, so that they were able. One of these girls had just graduated. She had no way to do anything about her ACT score before she started college. So we were happy we were able to help in that process. So anyway, if you have questions on the process of ACT and so forth, it is a big step during high school. We've got our code number on there. It's important that you put that on the application. You don't mark, and let me just say this across the board, for most things. It may not always be the case, but for most things, you do not mark that your student is a homeschool student. You mark they are a private school student or a Faith Heritage student, and it'll say what's your high school. And if our school doesn't come up for some reason, then you should be able to put it in. But if you know our code number, which is on here on the page that says important info for 2021 seniors, and says signing up for the ACT or SAT, and the same number goes for both. It's that number 431551. That's the official number they assign to us. So that gets it tied in. I also have parents sometimes who say, well, I signed up my student to take the ACT for their very first time and told them not to send it anywhere. Well, please don't do that, because if you don't have it come to us, then you may need it down the road, and you're either, for two things, you'll have to pay extra to have a report, and it's going to delay the process. If you find out you need an ACT score for something, that may not be as big of a deal right now, but in the future it could be, it's not going to hurt anything for it to come to us, to your high school. It's going to go into your student's file. Nobody's going to look at it besides me. So don't be afraid of that. Because even if they bomb out, everybody's got to start at some point and learn, how to get through this test and see where they are and where they need to improve. So all that to say, be sure and have your ACT scores sent to Faith Heritage every time you take them. Okay. Very important thing to mention is the Tennessee Promise Scholarship. And you've probably all heard of that, but for those of you who have seniors, this is a Tennessee State scholarship that you need to sign up for by November 1st. That is very important. The website's there. They do not take late applications. I think I read somewhere this year it was November 2nd, but just keep the first in your mind, because as the closer it gets to it, the more that website will get clogged up. So the Tennessee Promise Scholarship is guaranteed for every Tennessee high school student who graduates. It's only good for 2-year college programs, so it's only able to be used at the community colleges or any particular college that happens to have a 2-year program. So you may think, well, my student's not going to go to a 2-year college. They're going to go to a 4-year college. Well, this is your backup plan. Things happen. Sometimes the best of plans don't work out. It's really nice to have 2 years of college already guaranteed and paid for in case something else doesn't work out. So, it's not a hard thing to apply for. You go online and fill out a simple application. They do have hoops you have to go through, but they're not hard ones. You have to go to 1 or 2 meetings. This year they may end up having them virtual. I don't know. They canceled the ones in the spring, so people last year only had to go to 1 meeting. You have to do 8 hours of volunteer service. Well, that's not much to accomplish. And I think thereafter you have to do 8 hours every semester. But, you're talking about a negligible amount of service to get a college scholarship. So anyway, they have steps, and they will tell you the steps. When you sign up, make very sure that you give them an email address that you are going to look at. I've had parents in the past say, well, I put my son's email and he never looked at it. And so, they lost it. They lost the scholarship because they didn't follow the steps. The mom didn't know what the steps were. They also got a package in the mail, but evidently she didn't look at that either. So anyway, it's important, when you're talking about money for college, it's very important to follow the details and go through exactly what's required. It just is extremely important. Anyway, if you have questions on that, they have a website there that you can look at and so forth. Your students can graduate as Tennessee Scholars. Those of you, how many of y'all have already had a student graduate with us? I know there's several of you. Yeah, okay. Most of our students do graduate as Tennessee Scholars. It's a state program that they leave up to the school to administer, and it's very simple. All of the students who finish the program we've laid out of college prep courses, in other words, the courses your student has to take to graduate are the same courses they have to take to get the Tennessee Scholars Award. The only thing that's additional to that is that during high school, they have to complete at least 80 hours of volunteer service. That's just 20 hours a year spread over the 4 years of high school, so it's really not a burdensome amount. Most of our students do way more than that. Some of them even as much as into the thousands of hours. So, if your student helps with Vacation Bible School every year, they've pretty much easily got 20 hours a year. So that's just to give you an example of some of the things. It can be anything that they're not paid to do other than chores at home. It can't be something they do at home. So, or anything they're paid to do. So, it's, in other words, it's wide open. Now, if you go to this website and study it carefully, you'll see somewhere on there it probably says that you can't use service that you do at your church. We don't follow that because they've left it up to us to determine what's acceptable, and we believe that service through your church is extremely valuable and extremely noteworthy as far as volunteer service goes. We know what's involved in all the different aspects of service, either through your church or outside of it. So don't let that deter you. But keep up with it. Those of you who have kids just starting high school, get a page on your computer and start keeping up with what they do. It's hard to remember when they get to the 12th grade what they did back in the 9th grade. So keep it up, write down what they did and about how many hours, and it's not as hard to keep up with as you might think. And you don't really need to turn it into us until they're seniors. So that's how they can get a nice medal to wear during graduation and be recognized in that way. Okay. Let me just hit on, just to make sure it's clear to everybody, the courses that we do require for high school graduation, because I think it's very important that y'all understand that. There's a two-sided page. One has just a list that says graduation requirements, and then the back of it has a chart. And I love the chart because you can fill it in for each year, and then it makes it very easy to see what they've got left. So I try to fill one of these out, especially for every student that's moving into the senior year. It's not a transcript, but it has the same information that will be on a transcript. It's kind of like a worksheet. And you can copy that and use it as much as you want, and we can email any of these forms to you if you want to have it to use on your computer. I don't want you to have to duplicate some of this stuff when we've already got it and can just email it to you. But anyway, the courses that we usually get asked about, Bible is required every year that you're enrolled with us. You don't have to go back and make up years that you were not part of our program. English is required every year. Been asked a few times if a student can bring up an English from middle school. No, students have to have English every year, so that's just a given. The math requirements are stated there. The state of Tennessee increased the math requirement a few years ago from 3 to 4. The other thing that they specify is that a student has to have a credit of math every year of high school. And so the thing that comes up a lot is, what if they start their math during 8th grade and take their Algebra 1 in 8th grade? Then do they have to have 5 credits of math? Yes, that means they do have to have 5 credits of math because they've got that one from 8th grade and then they've got to have 4 more. This is a great time once they finish all the regular math courses to get a dual enrollment math course. So, there's different ways to deal with that. And some people, if their student really struggles with math, normally they wouldn't be taking their algebra in the 8th grade if they struggle with math. But if that happens, then we can shift that up to the 9th grade if need be. I don't worry a lot about stuff like that because I know parents all the time say, oh, well, they did that course a couple years ago, but I've been saving it for the right time to put that in their record. So anyway, we figure if they've done the work, then that's what counts. But anyway, if a student, the rule is if they can't make at least a 19 in math on the ACT, then they're exempt from advanced math. Since a lot of them don't have something to go by right now, you'll just have to use your best estimate on that. But if they can't and don't want, if you don't feel like advanced math is for them, that they're not going into something where they're going to need that much math and so forth, then we will allow them to take something like consumer math for their 4th math credit. So that's perfectly fine too. And sometimes a lot more practical for what they are going to need for the future anyway. The sciences are lined out pretty clearly. Biology is required for everybody. Chemistry or physics, one or the other, not both. We will give a waiver on that and let the student take a different science if they do have a learning difficulty where you don't believe they would be able to handle those courses, because we do recognize that chemistry and physics both can be pretty difficult for some students, depending on how they're geared. Physical science does count for a high school lab science. Sometimes I hear people all the time saying, oh, physical science doesn't count. The state of Tennessee counts physical science, so we do too. So, and if they took an 8th grade, it still counts, and it won't mess you up from 8th grade because you don't have to have a science every year. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, email me on that case. Okay. And you are Alicia, right? Okay, I'll make sure I'm not messed up on that. Okay. Yeah, she had a specific question that was unique to her child. But anyway, most problems can be worked out. If you've had students in the past, you might want to notice that both of the histories, both U.S. history and world history, say and geography, and that is because the state of Tennessee now requires that geography be incorporated into the history courses. It doesn't mean you've got to buy a geography book and do it along with your history course. It just means make sure that there's some geography incorporated into your history course, which usually in most of the histories I'm familiar with, that's already being done. So anyway, but it's supposed to say it on the transcript. Government and economics, all the rest of them are but we've talked about PE already. Computer, we get a lot of questions on computer, and that can come up from middle school. A lot of the public schools do it in middle school. It doesn't have to be a specific course. The goal of the computer credit is to make sure the students are entering college with the skills to do basic computer programs. A good portion of that, if they need it, could be simply typing or keyboarding. If a student gets to college and can't type well, they're going to be really slowed down on their college work, because if they think they had to write a few papers in high school, just wait till they get to college, and especially online, they're going to be typing out everything. So being able to write and write well and write efficiently is important. It's worth the time spent to be able to type without looking at your fingers. It's just worth the time spent on that. Anyway, the other programs they need to be able to do are basic word processing, making documents. They should be at least familiar with an Excel spreadsheet, not certified in it. They have college courses in that thing. And then how to do a PowerPoint presentation. Their college freshman teachers will expect them to know how to do a PowerPoint. And it's not hard, it's just something they need to do, just to have that experience. So if they've never done things like that, and you don't have to put them in a course, if you're able to teach them that, you can do it. If you don't feel comfortable, then you can put them in a course, or you can do courses right on your computer, tutorials that you can, work through. There's a lot of choices for that. Let's see, I do need to mention on foreign language that American Sign Language is now an acceptable foreign language in the state of Tennessee, so that's a nice choice for those who want that particular language. I think everything else is pretty self-explanatory. If you have a specific question, just check with us and email us. A lot of times people will say, was this curriculum okay, or is this curriculum okay? We give you the freedom to choose whatever curriculum you want to use. We don't, and we may or may not have an opinion about it, just not knowing. I do know one thing we have observed through the years of, 35 years of homeschooling experience. One thing we have observed, and that's going to be difficult to deal with this year, is that in the past, students who did a completely computer-based education program did not seem to retain the material they had learned, as well as students who had worked at least some with actual books and hands-on learning of some kind. So just keep that in mind. If your program is pretty much computer-based, for one thing, you don't want them in front of a computer all day long. It's just not healthy. And we know that, even though it's hard to deal with right now. But, you know, we all have books. Or we can, I think you can still go to the library. But anyway, or you can order them on Amazon. But anyway, make a choice of multiple avenues. People always learn best when they have lots of different materials that they're using and all their senses being engaged and so forth and so on. We know that, so we just have to put that into our plan. So I just thought I would throw that out, not to make anybody feel bad for the program that they have, but just to be aware of, you know, what the realities are. Seems like there was something else important. We've reached 3 o'clock, so we're pretty much at the end of our time. Does anybody have a specific question that's probably going to apply to everybody? Something? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I'm not getting it. No, that's okay. I'm just. Okay, so is your question about testing? Oh, you want to, okay, like what's going to be covered on the achievement test? Oh, okay, both good questions. Yeah, the achievement test does not affect their grade at all. That's completely separate. The achievement test is for you as parents. It's for you. Now, it is a built-in accountability, and if your student does really badly, we might say, you know, it looks like you might need to do some remediation on this particular subject because they don't seem to be getting it. But of course, a bad test score can also mean they had a bad day. So you as a parent are really going to know better than we do how they're doing and how they're progressing. But the achievement test does not factor into their grade. It doesn't determine if they pass for the year or anything like that. The achievement test is broad. We use the Stanford 10th edition, and it's not geared toward a certain curriculum or a certain program or anything like that. It is just an overall broad type of test. And sometimes people will say, well, we didn't cover such and such thing. Well, achievement tests are not designed to point out anything specific, but very general. And it's important, especially in addition to you parents, but for your children to understand when they're taking achievement tests, they are not expected to know everything on that test. This is not like a test you take over material that you just covered, you know, where you do expect them to know. You know, if you give a spelling test, it's over the words you assigned and you expect them to know it. Or if you're given a test over a chapter you've just covered, you know, you expect that they at least know the majority of the material. Achievement tests are not that way. You don't study for them. It's just something very broad and general. So just keep that in mind. And they specifically put things on there that are above the student's grade level just to kind of see what they'll do with it. Because, you know, the same kids nationwide are taking these same tests, and the scores are just a comparison. The score you get is not like a percentage of how many they got right. Now, I think that is on the score sheet, but when you look at the national percentiles, which is usually the main score you're looking at, what that means is how your student did compared to all the other students in the country. It's a comparison, which means 50%, a 50th percentile, which you would think of, oh, he made a 50, that's terrible. That's right smack in the middle. That means average. Now, the other thing that's very misleading on achievement test scores is a column called a grade equivalency. And it tells in one column, you know, like for each subject, it calls it the grade equivalent, and sometimes as the students get older, it'll have a PHS on there, which means post-high school. And parents will look at that and get excited and say, my student's already college level. They're you know, in 7th grade, and they've accomplished college level. Maybe we can just quit. That is not what that means. And so it's very misleading. It's actually a score that is extremely misleading and really not valuable at all, to tell you the truth. Because what it means is, for instance, if they did get a PHS or whatever, if they're in the 3rd grade and they got a 5th grade level for a certain subject, it means that if that level of a student took that test, for instance, if a college student came and took the same test that your student took, that's how they would be expected to do. Well, that doesn't really tell you anything, you know, so what? So it's, you know, it's an inaccurate measure, but it's one of the few measures we have that you can use to say, how's my student doing compared to everybody else in the world. But how they do on the material that you cover with them is definitely much more valuable to you. It's a twofold thing, but it is not something to worry about. It's not something to spend your year thinking, oh, I've got to make sure they know this, this, and this so they'll do good on their achievement test. If that's your focus, that's going to really mess your year up for you, because that's not what you want to gear toward. All right, any other questions? Those were good questions, though. Yes, ma'am. Okay. I haven't heard from that person, so I don't know. I know there are some good programs you can do. She's talking about somebody who can help you, like, you know, in some of the schools they have a program where your student can fill out a questionnaire, and it will help them see, you know, what their interests are, what they're good at, all that kind of stuff. There's several programs like that. The ACT is one. When you take the ACT, they have a huge questionnaire, and you don't have to fill it out. But if you do, it gives you some feedback. It may or may not be super valuable. But anyway, I'll check into that. I think I know who you're talking about. Yes? Uh-huh. Okay, that's a great question. Her question was, when your student takes the ACT and we get the official scores, and then when we send your student's transcript out to potential colleges and so forth, can we send the official scores with their transcript? And the answer is yes. You do not have to pay ACT. Now, they give you 4 free ones to do. In most cases, some of the colleges will say on the admission thing, get this directly from the ACT company, but most of them don't really mean that. So you can check with them and see. Yeah, if you've already paid, I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, they send us stickers. They're just little stickers that go along with the score report that we can attach to the transcript. And the colleges know that these are official, that they're not, you know, if you send a score to them, then they can look at it and it says the student report, and they don't take those generally. Yeah. No, we would send all the different. You know, the only time we don't send some is like if they start off and they're really low and there's no advantage of sending. But everyone where even one subject got better, then we'll include that. So, and then the college will do the super scoring. Okay, I think you in the red had a question. Your son can be a Tennessee scholar, but they cannot get any Tennessee state scholarships. We can't speak for the state on that, but yeah, they won't. Now, Mississippi probably has their own different scholarships. They may not have the same one, but they have scholarships too. And your student can graduate as a Mississippi scholar. The requirements are just a little bit different, but not a lot. So you can check with us on that. One thing I do know is that they have to take Mississippi studies, whereas in Tennessee, they take Tennessee history during middle school. But I think it's a one-semester class and otherwise, and maybe 4 social studies. I can look that up. But anyway, so you have different opportunities, but just as good. Okay, and we do have a lot of students, well, not a lot, but several students. We have a lot of Mississippi students, and we have several who do dual enrollment, for instance, at Northwest Mississippi Community College, so that you're able to do something within your state and have in-state tuition. So you've got those opportunities. Okay, well, we're going to dismiss. Y'all have been a great audience, and I don't want to keep you, but if you do have more questions, either email them to me or you can talk to me afterwards. If you ask me for a driver's form, I've got some of those, so I'll meet you out in the lobby. Thank you.